thought to myself, well, let me see what my body's capable of now that I'm not drinking anymore. So then I just started to be more consistent in the gym. And then I started to be grateful for what my body is capable of. And from there, it kind of just like took off. I think it's so important to know how amazing our bodies actually are. Obviously, we want them to be balanced, mind, body, spirit. But before I got sober, my blood pressure was high. I had all of these like physical issues. And then once I put the drink down and sort of like started to actually take care of my body, like how much it's turned around. And I think it's just really awesome.
Stories are powerful.
Welcome to the Rise, Recover, Live podcast, brought to you by The Phoenix. This is a space where people impacted by substance use can come to share their story of strength and resilience, get open and honest, and inspire hope and build community through shared experience.
We'll be talking to people in our community on their own recovery journey and shine a light on the topic of recovery in all its forms. Maybe you'll hear some of your story in theirs.
Let's show the world that together we rise, recover, and live.
Welcome, everybody, to yet another episode of the Rise, Recover, Live podcast. We are your hosts, Bryce III, he, him pronouns.
And Liz McKean, she, her pronouns.
Liz, I almost forgot where we were. Did you see how long it took me to say, where am I? How is your energy?
My energy is good. I feel happy today. I think, yeah. I'm working on allowing a feeling to be a feeling and not having to dissect everything behind it. The good ones anyways. The bad ones I like to question a little and be like, maybe let's just like figure out what's going on behind this. But I'm happy. I'm just going to be it.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it.
How about you? How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. The sun is shining after 3 days and I feel like the same is going on in my spirit. Eating good, living good. My kids are home, spring break. So it's lively in the house right now. What'd you get from DoorDash last night?
I told our wonderful patient guest that I was like, we might talk about the thing that I ordered for dinner because that's apparently a thing that people realized before I did, that it was so frequent. Let's see. I got myself, what did I order? I got myself a salad. Hey, look at that. Hashtag vegetables. Yeah.
You ever think about like making your own salads?
I mean, I've thought about it. I'm the person who will buy things for a salad. I will have a salad once at home, and then I will shamefacedly throw away the slimy vegetables a week later. So I'd rather just like order it, eat it, and then be done with it, and not feel like it's all judging me from my refrigerator.
Oh man, that's a very judgy fridge you have.
I know, it's really judgy. Do you ever think about making your salad? I think I have a very judgy podcast co-host too, as a matter of fact.
Nah. Nobody here is going to judge you. And I hope our guest doesn't judge us for talking about slimy vegetables.
Oh, no.
Not at all.
Which, by the way, Liz, who do we have here today?
Oh my gosh, we have this wonderful human that we're excited to introduce everyone to. Today we have Kehoe from Philadelphia. Casey is a CrossFit coach and a Phoenix volunteer. Once again, a fantastic recommendation from podcast alum Gavin Young, who just keeps bringing us the most wonderful people. So I can't wait to talk to her. How are you, Casey?
Good. How are you guys? Well, I just heard about how well you guys are. I'm well too.
Good. I'm so glad. Yes. And Casey, I feel like we've said this on several episodes, but we have another wonderful patient person that goes through the trials and tribulations of technology that makes our lives better and harder at the same time.
Yep.
So thanks for being so patient.
Of course.
Shout out to Tech. We love you, Tech. I think I forgot what episode it was. Y'all haven't heard it yet because it didn't get recorded because I cursed the technology gods and didn't knock on wood, and then Tech just went nuts. So shout out to Tech. We love you. We wouldn't be able to do these things without you.
Please
and
be
shout
nice
out to
to
Gavin
us.
Shout out to Gavin for putting on for Philly, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he sure is.
Well, Casey, welcome to the show. That's a wonderful shirt you have there.
Oh, thank you.
For those not watching on YouTube and listening on the podcast, it says the Phoenix Classic. What is that about?
So the Phoenix Classic is a CrossFit competition event held at Asbury Park CrossFit in Asbury Park, New Jersey. They put it on every year. It's a 3-person same-sex team event where they raise money for the Phoenix. Shout out to Sarah Murphy, who puts that on every year. It's amazing, a lot of fun. And I believe this year the competition is on June 29th. So I'm ready.
Nice. CrossFit competitions. How long have you been competing?
Oh, I've been doing CrossFit for about 8 years. I've done some competitions here and there throughout, those years, but it wasn't really until I, kind of dove into my sobriety that I started to really compete more frequently. So within the last year, I think I did 8 or something like that. I can't even, I was doing like one a month since like April till like November. So it was a lot. But yeah, I'm not going to do as many this year, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's really cool. We've got we've had several people on this show talking about, CrossFit in particular. And it's very cool how that, I don't know, folks that are in so many people in recovery find joy in lots of different kinds of movement. But I think things like CrossFit are just such community builders that they don't just become like, oh, this is a hobby that I do, as a, happenstance sober person. It's also like, this is actually part of my recovery because it's this community that's so tight. And that's just such a big part of recovery, which is, the reason that we're all here. So you said something really interesting in we ask everyone before they come on to just give us some notes about, who they are and what they want to talk about. And one of the things that you said in your form was just that recovery is something that you don't often use that as a word to describe yourself, even though like clearly you're very active in the community. And, language is just something I think that's really interesting. And we talk about a lot and there's no right or wrong, it's the beautiful thing about it. So just what does that mean to you? Like, what does recovery and sobriety mean to you? What does that play as a role in your life?
Yeah. I mean, for me, being sober is a lifestyle, and it's something that, I would like to continue throughout the duration of my life. But can I predict that? No. But it's not just the physical act of not partaking in whatever substance, that, was your choice. It's living that sober lifestyle, being mindful, being grounded, helping somebody else, kind of getting outside of yourself. I mean, obviously you want to be in tune with your mind, body, and spirit. But I think a lot of times, we as humans can be so wrapped up in what's going on, like with us, that can be kind of detrimental sometimes. And for me, I think a big part of my sobriety is community, is, trying to inspire, motivate, help someone else, not even just in sobriety, in pretty much anything, just making sure somebody's having a good day. And that really drives my motivation and discipline and accountability in staying sober. So.
Nice.
I love that.
Nice. I think like how Liz shared in the beginning of the episode that she was working on not dissecting emotions as much. Like, I can see that because of the work that I've put in on showing up for myself in that relationship with self. But like that probably would have went over people's heads if they don't do that type of work on themselves. And so like you said, Casey, like that relationship that we discover about ourselves, the way that we dig into ourselves, like that comes along with it. Like once, at least for me, like once I put the drugs down, like what ended up happening was like there was a whole person and like who had to like process and show up for life, how life was without like thrashing against it. And just read a comment in the Phoenix app in one of the spaces. It might have been the safe space where they had shared that, they just seen their childhood home demolished and their mom is going through some things, like some dementia, is like terminally like going through it. And, they expressed that, I'm like, it seems like everything is slipping away. And what I've learned is that like recovery is learning how to build a relationship with ourselves that allows for us to show up in life with those things that like inevitably happen. The impermanent nature of things in life. Like, how do I show up and allow for those things to happen and be okay in the midst of it? And so when you share what you share, like that kind of led to, I don't know, just kind of that contemplation. But I'm curious, how did you get to where you are now with using CrossFit as one of those tools that allows for you to show up on life's terms? How did you get here? What was your recovery story like?
Yeah. So like I said, I've been doing CrossFit, I'm going to say since 2015 or 2016. So about 8 years. And I'm just, I think 15 months sober now. So obviously there's
Nice.
with a lot of time in between starting CrossFit and getting sober. When I first dabbled in trying to get sober back in like 2021, 22, kind of on the wagon, off the wagon, that merry-go-round hamster wheel, I like to call it. But then it wasn't until I first was introduced to actually the Phoenix in a recovery program I was in. My first Phoenix class was in October of 22. My last drink was December 5th of 2022. I've really kind of like dove into like attending the Phoenix CrossFit classes a lot. I found the community there, the people that, would show up every week, very motivating and encouraging, and I'm not going to lie, in the beginning of my sobriety, I was very miserable. And I would be happy when I would go to these classes and be surrounded by people who I felt like kind of understood me a little bit. So from there, it really kind of just started to hold me accountable. And then I kind of thought to myself, well, let me see what my body is capable of now that I'm not drinking anymore. So then I just started to be more consistent in the gym. And then I started to really just be grateful for what my body is capable of. And from there, it kind of just like took off. I think it's so important to know how amazing our bodies actually are. Obviously, we want them to be balanced, mind, body, spirit. But before I got sober, my blood pressure was high. I had all of these like physical issues. And then once I put the drink down and sort of like started to actually take care of my body, like how much it's turned around. And I think it's just really awesome.
Oh yeah. I think both Liz and I could probably, really agree with you there. Liz in the realm of yoga and me just in a realm of like learning my body more. You don't think about all the things that you don't pay attention to before you start to look at life intentionally. That gap between, was it October and December, where October you went to your first Phoenix class, and December where it's like it was your last drink. I'm curious, are there like certain things, like certain intricacies about going to this class or the community that you found there that contributed to like, maybe I'll try this thing and like really like hang in there?
October, I was just like coming up to about 90 days again. And I did go on a trip and decided to test the waters again with drinking. And, it didn't pan out the way, you think it will, because you think it's going to be different every time, and it never is. Yeah. So I had gone to a Phoenix class, I think right before I left for that trip, fell off the wagon again. And then, when I came back, I was like, kind of like in a bad headspace, like feeling like a failure again. I was like, oh, I'm not going to drink this week or next week. So I may have gone like 2 weeks without drinking and then picked up again. And then I was like, the night I had my last drink, I was like, okay, so what am I going to do differently this time to really make sure that I stay sober? And that's kind of where I was like, well, I'm going to give AA a try. And then, I'm going to dive into this Phoenix class and just show up every week if I don't feel like going. So I would just kind of committed to myself to just keep showing up. And then it also helps if people sort of expect you to show up too. So that's where the community aspect comes in majorly. I feel like people are holding you accountable. So that definitely helps a lot.
That word accountable, I feel like, is so interesting because in this conversation, like I know exactly what you mean. And like there's people in my life that hold me accountable, like in the best way, like I really want to show up for you. And that is a way that I'm held accountable, or if I'm not somewhere, someone's going to notice and ask, and that's not like you're in big trouble, this is going on your permanent record, like, which is how I think I used to feel about, being held accountable. I think in general for me, like sobriety, getting sober, recovery, all those things to me felt like a punishment, and accountability was in that same camp, So I love that we're using that language. I love that we're talking about it like this, where it's like that accountability, that like I actually want someone to hold me accountable because it makes me feel loved and cared about. It's that it doesn't make me feel any less free, more free, actually, like what freedom to know that I don't have to do this all by myself. So it's incredibly cool.
I mean, I mean, I think even now, I mean, I'm still fairly young in my sobriety, but I just feel like, I don't have those, like, I don't feel like I'm going to drink, but it's still like having the accountability aspect of it, of the community that I've built around me now more than ever, to be honest, I think is like so important. And I look forward to showing up, and I hold people accountable now too. So it's like, it's what the community is all about.
Yeah, it's so many ways, so many intricate ways that we couldn't even, like at the beginning, it was hard for me to even put into words. But like even now, like even beyond like sobriety, recovery, like there's ways I show up professionally because like I admire Liz, and we work together. And it's like I know she depends on me. I know my other partner, Chelsea, I know she depends on me. And so it's like certain things where if it was just me, like I'd have been clicked off. Like I don't want to do like spreadsheets or drip campaigns or like emails and like the scheduling and I can keep going. But because
So
I
all
care,
came out of our meeting yesterday, by the way. I'm like recognizing, like I said those words. Yeah, sorry.
but because I care about these people, like it pushes me to be something unlike I've ever been before. And then like even beyond this relationship, like now I'm just that person now. The way I show up in spaces is an amalgamation of all the people that I've come across and held myself accountable to. And it also worked the other way where it's like, my pathway is 12-step. And so I'll get a call from somebody who's like, I'm going to the meeting. Are you going? And I know that this person, if I say no, they'll be like, that's my escape to not go. So it's like, I'll say, you know what? Yeah, I'm going. And I kind of feel that. So it's like, yeah, I'm holding myself accountable to you, but also like we hold each other accountable. And we both went to this meeting maybe because we both didn't feel like it, but we both got something from it, And that's like the power of community, getting around people who, want a future similar to the one that I desire.
Yeah, I mean, the saying out there is like, it takes a village, I think, to like raise a family or raise kids or something. But I think it takes a village just to get through life. Like, build your people around you. And, it's okay to, do it with other people. Like, you don't have to go through it alone.
Yeah. Well, and that's we were talking earlier about the beauty and the tribulations that come with technology, but there's plenty of people, and there's seasons in my life where I'm like, you talk about community and showing up for people, and it's just like, I don't want to put on real pants. I'd rather be in my house all day in pajamas. And now we have the ability to do that, like between Zoom meetings and Phoenix events, and also just like digital spaces and walls where you can just type and the person that put that, what you were talking about, Bryce, in the safe space. I mean, they were able to connect, and I'm sure, knowing this community like I do, that people responded with like words of support. And so it gets to be just like all pathways to recovery. We all have different pathways, even right in this room. Like there's not just one way, and community doesn't necessarily have to mean one thing. It's just amazing. So yeah.
So what you're saying, Liz, is you have pajama pants on right now?
Never not. Yeah. You can pretty much always
on right now. So it's so funny.
See?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's beauty of, what is it? Work from home. #WFH. Yes. Pajamas always. Anyway, behind the scenes that nobody asked for. Sorry, audience. Anyways, I feel like we've touched on this already. We just haven't used this word, but I know resiliency is something that's important to you, Casey, that I'm just excited to hear you talk about. I mean, I've heard that if you keep a car driving, it takes less gas than if you stop the car and then restart the car. Like that takes more energy. And I think that happens a lot for, in recovery. Like you said, there were lots of starts and stops, which, I mean, yeah, it's amazing if you set down the substance and that's your recovery, and you do it once and that's forever. I mean, like, oh my God, you're amazing. But for a lot of us, it's the putting down and picking back up and that like restarting that takes such incredible energy. And like, I mean, resiliency, I wish we had like a bigger even word for it, because I think I'm so with you that that's important. So what does that mean to you?
Being resilient, I think, is just, you just have to keep trying, honestly. But also, I think it's, believing in yourself that you can do it. I know for me, whenever I like relapse, I would just, like you said, it takes more energy to like get going. Like I would just go further and further down into like that hole, depression, like everything. And then to climb myself back out, I kind of got to the point where it's like, I don't think I'm going to climb back out again if I do this. And I think for me, the resiliency to just finally climb out that last time and, stick with it and hopefully stick with it forever. But it was just one of my coworkers that said to me one time, my manager, because I did I had to let my work know the things that were going on for me to get a little bit of extra help at the time. She told me, she said, Casey, you're so resilient. You can do this. So it's like, it's not just with recovery. Like I do think, resiliency is showing up for me, like with work, with trying to like, get to that next level. Like you have to keep trying. Like life isn't easy, basically. And you kind of just have to keep pushing forward.
And I think as time goes by and we have more experience, it allows for us to come into the intricacies. I've used the word intricacy like 20,000 times. That's like my version of like, I thought things were black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I have experience, the more other colors come in. Mm-hmm. And I used to be real big on like, you just gotta just keep going. Mm-hmm. But sometimes we could look at that as like, oh damn, like I gotta continue to force myself to do this thing that like I'm continually getting feedback that is not me. Even if we look at like, getting back in the ring with drugs and alcohol, it's like, man, I keep getting in this ring. Like this all started with me throwing in the towel. Like I had to like, maybe I approach this a different way, and sometimes we could look at like not showing up how we did as like failure or we're giving up. But in all actuality, like a lot of the pivots that I've had in my recovery have been me throwing in the towel. You know what? This doesn't work for me in this way. And maybe there's an easier way for me to go about it that is in more alignment with who it is that I've come to understand myself to be. And, that just takes time. And so then to speak to resiliency, I was like, in that time only is there if you show up today, and I just had this idea and maybe somebody will like act on it. If you hear this idea and you want to act on it, do it. And then let me know how it goes. Let me know in the podcast space. But like, what if like you got a bucket, right? And you put it like at your front door and every day you put a penny in that bucket, right? And like, it's for nothing. Like it's silly, it's goofy. Like this means nothing really for real, but it's just something that you do consistently every day. And then eventually like you'll look at the bucket and it get filled up and it's like, whoa, like every day, all I did was just this one little action. And now I can't even really pick this bucket up because there's so many pennies in this bucket, right? Like that can be symbolic and a reminder of how much just showing up today, like plays a role in creating that life that you desire that can seem big when it's like, but I want this, I want to be this dependable. I want people to trust me and believe in me in this way. And I want to have these material things. And I, like those big things that could feel like an elephant to eat. And it's like, no, just put the penny in a bucket today. That's all you got to do.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. Actually, when the last time I got sober, obviously I got these like little pebbles from Michael's in this little vase, and I put a pebble in every day that I would have sober to have that visualization because, it can seem unattainable and such like this. How am I going to get to like a year sober or whatever? Like, and they say one day at a time for a reason, but when you're first in it, it's like really difficult to like think about. So yeah, that visualization definitely helped me out a lot.
Well, because it allows you to look back too. You're able to like recognize how far you've come, instead of just looking at the mountain to climb ahead, you get to look back and be like, holy crap, look how I can see the whole city from here. We tend to just look at I would imagine it's probably similar in those CrossFit competitions, right? Like it's easy to be like, man, I, didn't get this weight or whatever, but like also like, holy crap, like I'm at the point that I could even try this, you gotta, there's so much behind that. Where you are right now. It's like so much to be proud of.
Absolutely.
And then when you think about like, You got things like a master's degree, or bachelor's degree, a Mercedes Benz, a set of gold teeth, or whatever, right? Like
it's a cool list. Keep going. That's so fun.
But like those are things that you can attain, and I have attained none of those things, but like other things in my life, right? But like every time I attain those material things, it's like, oh, like that was cool, but now I want something more. I want something else, But like speaking of something like recovery, like that's not even material. We can literally never attain it. And when I get a year, there'll be another year to go. There'll be another year to go. There'll be another year to go. So if I'm focused on like, I just need to get, 6 months, I just need to get a year. When we get there, if that what it was about, then what ends up happening is like, you still got time, So like, I don't know, at least for me, like I count time, but it's not the focus. It's like the quality of the day. And then eventually, like you'll have that time comes. But if it's about the time, when you get it, you're going to want more time. And it's like, whoa, what's going on here? Like I'm trying to pour water into a cup without a bottom, and I don't feel fulfilled. I can't satiate this thing that I want, But yeah, just like, they say, one day at a time, man, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that resiliency that your boss mentioned, like they weren't talking about, oh, you want to get sober or you need some support or whatever. Like, oh, you're really resilient. Like this is the evidence I have for it. Like they were talking about like you as in a much bigger way, right?
Yes. Yeah. She definitely, I think, wanted to remind me that I can do hard things.
Because you already
and
have.
This by far is probably the hardest thing that I've ever, and I think a lot of people will ever do in their lives. I mean, every single day you choose to be sober. I mean, it's beautiful. Some days are more difficult than others, but it is difficult, in the grand scheme of things. Beautifully difficult, I will say. I think as a person, I can do hard things. So it was good for her to kind of remind me of that. Yeah.
Real quick, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Give me 3 things that you are proud of yourself for overcoming.
Okay. So I will say, obviously, choosing to be sober every day. Very proud of myself for that. Every day I wake up and choose to be sober. I've also recovered from an eating disorder. So I got that one in the bag too. Really doing great with mental health. And I think I'm really proud of myself for being somebody who is dependable now for family, friends, colleagues, the Phoenix. I really am proud of myself for being somebody people can depend on.
That's a beautiful list.
Yeah. Ugh. That is just that feeling of knowing that people can rely on you, can depend on you, that you can depend on yourself. That's like.
Yeah, like if I get a phone call in the middle of the night for like whatever reason, like, my dad's in the hospital or like whatever it is, God forbid, knock on wood, but I can get up and I can go and I can be there or for whatever it is, because for a long time I wasn't that dependable person. So I'm very proud of myself for being that way now. Yeah.
Man, look, that's such a gift, such an honor. People trust me with babies now. I don't watch them as much because I don't like the little babies all the time. But like, people watch. Like Bryce, will you watch my kid? Like, sure, like sure. I just named the goddaddy for my brothers. My brothers, we don't know what the gender is yet, but like this week may be the due date. Well, this week it may come this week, but she's doing a home birth. So, and he's working out like an hour away. And so they just moved like 10 minutes away from me. And so like I'm on call just in case like it get crazy. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but like, you could depend on me.
Well, that's awesome that, you're the one who's on call. That's amazing.
Yeah. And it's like, to know that there was bouts of disappearance where nobody knew where Bryce was at one point, and like you would never put anything in Bryce's hands to hold it, to depend on it, to be taken care of. It's like, like the contrast, the perspective is beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if you could go back or go to the future, wherever time period you want to go,
Okay.
and tell any iteration of Casey a bit of advice, a suggestion, a word, what iteration would you choose, and what would you tell her?
Ooh, that's a big one. I would probably tell Casey from the past that it gets better, and I would tell her to just slow down and enjoy the time that you have. There's no reason to be in a rush to get anywhere or do anything. I would also tell her that she doesn't need to be small and that she's not too much, and to just let her personality out. Because for a long time she would keep that personality hidden down unless she was drunk. And future Casey, I would tell her to also just enjoy the ride. You know, we were talking a little bit about time. Like time comes and goes, but it's all about kind of what you do with your time. And I think just enjoying it while it's here is so important, and not always overthinking it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that takes us full circle to the beginning of the episode. I think that's the perfect way to end, because Liz was harping upon not beating up the fact that she was happy. I mean, if you're happy, you're happy. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't not clap. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're such a 7-year-old, Liz.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. I know it. Wow.
Well, this has been a phenomenal conversation, Casey. We appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate all you all listening. Is there, do you want to leave the audience with any calls to action or places that they could find you, or anything about the Phoenix Open or the Phoenix Classic?
Yeah, I mean, you guys could find me on Instagram. It's KCK121. I post a lot about the Phoenix on there. I would just encourage everyone and anyone to check out the app. And, there's all kinds of classes on there, as we all know, not just CrossFit. I also like to do yoga too. So yeah, just expand your horizons and hop on there. And I just hope that everybody just gives ourselves a break today and any day, and just, enjoy the ride, like I said.
Enjoy the ride, baby. Hey, real quick, what are some of your favorite spaces in the app? Do are you in like a lot of spaces on the app?
Just mainly the event spaces. I actually just wanted to start to check out some of those other, I've seen some book clubs, some other kind of like meetings, but mainly just like the events in my area I've checked out the most. I do also know that they do I guess like a sobriety counter on there now, if that's important to anybody, which is pretty cool. So yeah, there's a lot going on there. And I do believe that the Phoenix is revamping their website if they haven't done that already yet. Yeah.
It's revamped. Yeah. Check it out if you haven't in a while. Yeah, it's very cool.
All right, cool. Well, I might see you in one of those spaces, especially the book club.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we thank you all for listening. All of those things that were mentioned will be in the description below, and whatever you're listening to this podcast on, or on YouTube if you're watching it. And we will catch you next time on the next episode of Rise, Recover, Live.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So now you're excited. Bryce, Liz, how do I get involved with the Phoenix? Well, my friend, it is super simple. We actually have an app. Head over to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or look in the show notes of this podcast, wherever you're listening to or watching this podcast, and go download the Phoenix app.
The Phoenix app makes it so easy to find classes that are near you, or to access our virtual class schedule where you can hop on from the comfort of your home. You can also join our groups and have a conversation with someone from the Phoenix community from anywhere in the world. Please make sure that you join the podcast group where you can connect with Bryce and I and other listeners. Everything that you need is in the show notes. You can also head to our website at www.thephoenix.org. And maybe while you're there, you click the volunteer tab and get even more involved.